And the third paper I picked was an interesting modification of topo-guided LASIK by Mark Lobanoff in Minneapolis. So topography-guided LASIK is based on the principle that an image of the front surface of the cornea can guide our laser ablation to theoretically get greater accuracy. The challenge is that the recommended tolerances for difference between topographic measured astigmatism and refractive is that we have very tight tolerances between them. And so only about 10% of patients in the FDA trial of the Contura laser were actually able to receive it, of those patients screened because of these tight tolerances. And then in actual practice, treating off of the MRX, the manifest refraction achieved visual acuities that were not as good as were achieved in the FDA trials. So what was hoped for was a mathematical model of taking the information from surface topography, putting it together with other information from refraction, and coming up with a nomogram for treating with laser that would actually improve visual acuity and give consistent results. So Mark has created a software called Phorcides that purports to do this, and what it essentially does is borrow some logic from geographic imaging software where highs and lows are measured and determined for what the important elements are that would, in this case, affect focus of the eye, and then distill those high and low points into information that could be put into sort of a vector treatment of astigmatism, customizing the astigmatism and irregularity treatment with the laser. So this concept called TCN, or where a topographic contribution, a change in cylinder contribution, and a nomogram contribution are all factored together. Along with adjusting for spherical equivalent. We won't go into all the details here, but the idea is to take that information from topography and use a simple nomogram that will, in a sophisticated way, take advantage of what we know from topography to give the patient a better outcome. In the end, 1 month results looking at a number of patients treated this way found that if you look at column 3 here, that's the yellow column, this is patients with the Phorcides nomogram, and we're looking at what percentage of patients achieved each level of visual acuity. On the left is, of course, the FDA study of Contura. So with Phorcides, they were able to match the consistent delivery of vision to what was found in the FDA study of Contura. So a pleasing result in a greater number of patients. And in some clinical practices, similarly, we were able to achieve high levels of 20/20 or even 20/15 vision, and this is reproducible across a couple of different practices that the authors shared with the audience in this presentation. So the idea is that this software will allow us to take the engine of topographic guided ablation and pair it with some math that allows better accuracy for treatment.
Can you go back to the picture of the topography there for me, please? So we've been using this as well. I think this has been a very significant improvement. For regular patients who have refractive error, leave it there, that's great. This applies, but if you're operating on keratoconic eyes, it's even more of an important issue because they're so regular. But when you do a refraction, you're getting the actual refraction. When you're getting rid of the high-order aberrations by treating the irregularities, such as this case, this is really a case of trefoil. You can see 3 hot spots in the periphery. What this is going to do is this is going to induce hyperopia. So, I'm sorry, this will be a hyperopic ablation, which would induce myopia. So what you're seeing here is an ablation profile that's going to change the refraction. Unless you account for that in your new nomogram, you're going to be off on refractive error. So this here is going to make the patient actually more myopic, which would mean that you need to actually treat more and at a different axis. So this is really a very nice advance in managing topographic ablations that we haven't had before.
Since '95, when these lasers were first released, we have told patients, wait for the future when we have the ability to treat irregular corneas, right, Ed? We were in fellowship around the same time in the same place, and now we may be closer to that.
Yeah, I think this is a real step forward. I think one of the problems, at least unique to the Wavelight platform, is that there was no standardized way of doing it. You'd talk to 3 different people, and they tell you to do it 3 different ways. If you talk to John Catanopoulos, you leave puzzled at the end because he has a complicated way to do it. But even the clinical application specialist from Alcon, if you had 2 different people, they would tell you 2 different ways. And I think if we can get standardization where we can treat more of these patients rather than 10%, it is a powerful tool, not only for highly aberrated eyes, but also for naturally occurring refractive error.
Yeah, so for patients who are coming in now who have keratoconus, for example, we've done hundreds of cases like this, and it's really very gratifying that you can treat an irregular cornea. A patient with keratoconus, you can take an abnormal cornea, cross-link it, and then do a topographic ablation, and then do cataract surgery, and take them from best corrected before they had a cataract, 2050, to uncorrected of 2025 or 2030. So I think it's a very exciting area. And this is just not for corneal surgeons. This really applies to cataract surgeons as well. You can start thinking about doing some things we didn't do in the past.
Great, that's it.
Any other comments? Great. Well, John Hovanesian, thank you very much.